Hello, welcome to today's What's in the Workshop. So this is the big one. This is the final instalment in the Wolseley's return to the road. There's a lot to cram in this video. It was not a smooth path at all. So sit back, relax and join me over these past few weeks of Wolseley. Okay, so I've got the front wheel off this side for the first time. What have we got going on? Well, nothing good. So the inner wing's obviously a big rotten hole here, so that needs sorting. Then we've got this business going on down here, it needs sorting. There's some dodgy repairs here, and that subframe mount is gone. I've jacked up the subframe, but it's the rubber's all folded up and moved up there, and also that subframe mount is gone. So, a few things to sort out in here. Okay. All done under here, patched up in this corner, around there, up there. That one wasn't me, but I just put some fresh seam sealer over it. We patched up round here, and then most of that patch isn't me, but I've done a return along the bottom which I bent a 90 into to give it some strength back. So this inner wing now got some strength. So when I put this subframe mount back in here that's broken, that'd be better. Got the new subframe mount in there. So I'm going to put the wheel back on. That disc's beautiful, by the way. I'm going to put the wheel back on, let it settle on suspension, bolt that subframe mount up with the plate that I've just made on the inside. I've cleaned up all around the heel board in there, so I'll bolt the plate on with the subframe mount and weld that in to reinforce the inside. So, bottle of gas has run out on the Big Mig. Can't get a replacement until mid next week. So I bust out the old Clark welder. The bottle of gas on that lasted me a little while, but I need to get some more. So I went to a well-known motor parts retailer, also sells bicycles, you know the one. I bought 2 bottles of gas, argon CO2 rather than that CO2 one. Got them home today. One of them is already empty, the valve rattles, and the other one lasted 10 minutes. So I've got to make another hour round trip back to town for some more gas. Great. Right, I'm back again. I'm warm and flustered. You see what isn't down here? There's no welding equipment. That's right, something significant has happened. I have put away the welders. The welding is done. So we've got up in there and under there, it says all kinds of reinforced, as well as welded up where the subframe mounts, and then there's holes up above it, which is really difficult because there's throttle pedal in the way. A hole at the back that I thought was one small pinhole, well, that escalated. So there's all that there, and then underneath on the heel board I've repaired, and one between the wheel arch and in the boot, and that is done. So with welding done, I can now turn my hand to mechanical matters. I've just changed the subframe mount up there and then seam sealed it. So what I'm going to do next is immediately forget that I've seam sealed that and put my head on it. And following that, I'm going to attempt an oil change. Now, I think that gives you a story of when this last had an oil change. I mean, that is crispy. Fingers crossed that comes undone. If not, we'll just do our best sucking the oil out. But either this engine's been sat for a very long time, or it's not been serviced for a very long time, or both. Well, it came out. It's pretty black, but yeah, this is liquid. That's the start. Some fur on there, but bearing in mind, it is a transverse engine that shares a gearbox, so don't worry too much about that. Next on the list, with the oil done, carburetor. It feels like it's running extremely rich. So I'm going to set the jet height back to base setting. I'll take the dash top off, bring it up and down again. I'll go through that as I do it. So to get somewhere near base setting, what I'm going to do is wind it up underneath till this fella here is level with this. I'm going to wind the flats underneath to do that. Obviously I can't find my SU adjusting spanner. Yeah, so once that's level, you then wind it down 2 full turns, and that should be somewhere near where we need to be. Well, I've done it the 12 turns back, but It's running so badly, it's very difficult to tell. It's extremely smoky. So you can see the haze in the air. I think cylinder number 2 and possibly cylinder number 1 are having issues. Maybe it's just stock rings, but I think we probably know it's not. But I'm going to have to take it up the road and see what it does. I figured while I was in there I'd change this piece of old gas pipe and this piece of whatever it is that with the feed to and from the fuel pump, add in a filter as well. While I was in there I noticed the live supply to the fuel pump. What you want to do is put that right behind the carburettor and then just twist 2 bits of wire together actually. So that's just a fire waiting to happen. I think I'll probably rectify that. Right, next on the list of safety concerns, this fella. I think if I just do that a little bit more, Oh, no, that's okay, that end's fallen off. Well, you see what I'm saying. I think we need to pop a new battery live on there. That's better. So the next thing to replace is this rubber donut. As you can see, that's about to fail. Well, I've got a lovely one from my stores to go on. Now I know what you're going to say. Why are you fitting that thing that's clearly 1,000,000 years old? Well, 2 reasons. 1, it's old, there's nothing wrong with it. 2, I bought some new ones for the 1300 GT last year and the quality was terrible. They're massive, they hit the gearbox, so we'll go with that and see how it goes. Just noticing more and more things while I'm down here. So when the 1300 engine's being pinched and this 1100 is being put in, I just, yeah, washers on nothing. I just noticed these engine mount, radiator mount bolts were loose, as was the one up on the radiator there. Oh, it does make you wonder. Some people just really shouldn't touch things. Well, that very definitely needed changing. I haven't got gloves on, so I won't poke it with my hand, but yeah, you can see that's just gone. So I presume when the engine was changed, this must have been on from the other side, because the other side has a bit of an oil leak, but this side does not. Well, that said, it would have been a different engine, but anyway, that one looks like it's definitely been impregnated with oil. So, got my new to me one in there. That was a pain. When I'd done one on the 1300 GT on this side, I managed to do it with the car just jacked up. This, there was absolutely no chance. I had to split the bottom ball joint. Right. It's finally out the garage. So now I'm going to get a good hoover and we'll get some interior back in. The carpet looking great before, but I also don't remember it looking this bad. I probably need to glue it, but I mean it's sort of in. Before I get some clean water to finish the seats off, have a look at the colour of that. Yuck. They can still do more of a clean, but they are 100% better than they were. Oh, headlight. Yeah, alright, still there a little bit, but when you're driving along, it's tolerable. So, road test was a success. I didn't break down. Didn't have to call the wife to come and pick me up. I'm calling that a win. After I came back, I did jack up each corner and just see what was going on with all the wheels once the brakes had a chance to get some use. And I've got a bit of a job list now coming from that. So we've got offside rear handbrake binding. So that side is not quite coming off. There's also a bit of an odd noise on rotation. So I need to take that side off, have a little bit of a look. And we've got near side rear handbrake. Did absolutely nothing. Nothing whatsoever. Cable moves, but nothing's happening. So we need to see what's going on in there. Then we've got the near side front. The brakes are binding on this side. There's also got a lot of knocking and play. I think there's some play in the wheel bearing and possibly the bottom ball joint. So I've had a rummage in the shed, and I have found I've got a whole nother corner of the hub. Also looks like the pads have been wearing unevenly on that, but maybe we can strip some bits, and I might just change the whole hub, but put bits together and make a good one. So we'll go through that. And then we've got the near side headlight that went out. That's fine. I've got some halogen ones I can put in there. Washers, there is no washer bottle at the minute. So I'll pinch some bits off the MGB body shell before that goes. I'll pinch the pump off there, and I've got an old wash bottle that can go in. And then engine mount, the front engine mount, the rubbers really go in, so there's a lot of movement and take up in drive. The rear one on the gearbox has been replaced, so I think it's just that one. And then on top of my little list I've written here, there's still other things as well. I've got to put the interior back in. At the minute I've only got the driver's seat in there. And then on top of that list I've made, there's still other things to do. It's still not running brilliant. I think it's still running too rich. So I still need to fiddle with the carburetors. It is still smoky, but not a lot we can do about that in the time scale. I think possibly the timing might need checking as well, because it does feel a little bit down on power. But again, if it's smoky, I'm not too worried about that. It's not pinking, so if it is out, it's retarded, which isn't going to do any harm. Not in for going too fast this weekend anyway. I just want to get round. Yeah, there'll be more little things as we go, and chrome trims to put back on, and it needs a wash, and luxuries if we get time for that. But let's get stuck in. I'll start with this corner, I think, because that's probably the most work, because it's brakes binding and ball joints and stuff. So we'll start with that corner. I'll take it off. We'll have a look, see what's wrong, and see what we can do to fix it. Okay, here's what we're up against in here. As you can see, those pads are worn extremely unevenly. So these are strange calipers. They pivot on the top and they slide on the bottom. So the pads are always kind of going to want to wear that way, but not to that extent. So I suspect probably that slide is seized. First of all, I'm going to try take the pads out, and this is no good anyway, see if we can free off the caliper. But I'd like to be able to not break into the hydraulics. I'd like to swing that out of the way and then deal with the hub. So let's take the pads out and see what we've got going on in there. Right, got the pads out. They're a bit of a fight. The split pins have been in there a long time. Not seized. That is lovely and free. The piston pushes back and it's in good condition. There's no rust on it. I might just pop a set of pads in it and see what happens. The only other thing it could be is the brake flexi hose. When they get old, they collapse inside, so it lets fluid through but doesn't let it push back very easily. So that could be a bit of a problem, but we'll stick it all back together with some copper slip and everything on another hub, because there is some play in this wheel bearing, and then we'll see what it's like. Okay, I've got the hub ready to come off. So there's your one big nut that holds the disc and drive flange on, and then plop, that comes off. There's top ball joint here, bottom ball joint there, and trap rod end there. So I've just got to get the ball joint splitter in there, and all three of those, and then that hub just comes straight off. I did just try tightening up the nut first to see if it was just loosen the bearings, but there's still play there. I mean, those bearings aren't noisy, so it'd probably be fine, but yeah, I've got another one here. I'm on this corner anyway. May as well change it over. Right, that's the new to me hub on. I'll put some new dust covers on the ball joints, and I grease them up before I put it on so I can wiggle them around and make sure they're full of grease. Because if you put the grease gun on with it in one position, it pressurizes the ball joint, and then the grease can't get past unless the ball joint's really worn. So you need to move the ball joint around for the grease to get all the way around it. So the best way to do it is obviously while it's off. So that's on loosely at the minute. The old one, I mean, there is some play in the bearings. Obviously, when they're clamped up, there's less, but yeah, the new ones don't wiggle about like that, so I'm pretty confident this is going to be better. Right, that's all back together. We got the spring clips on this time, split pins that aren't completely rotten. Fine. Got pads, got disc. Good. The only thing at the moment is still tight, but I've undone the bleed nipple on the caliper and fluid is coming through fine. It wasn't under pressure, so I don't think it's the flexi hose that's the problem. But I think I probably need to run it for a bit and see what it's like once it's bedded itself in, and yeah, we'll try that on the road. So for now, we'll put the wheel back on that side and call that done. And we'll move on to the next one. Possibly I'll do the rear on this side this time because it's there, and then we'll move on to the other side of the car. Well, I took the hub nut off in the preparation for it being inside the drum, but I think actually it's probably that handbrake quadrant is seized, because if I pull this on, you can't turn the drum. You let go and you can. So I think it's probably seized at this point here. Okay, I've been in there and given that quadrant a good old squirt and they're working, and now we have a handbrake that goes on and off again. Woohoo! So the other side at the back, I have gone ahead and taken the drum off. Mostly because it's making a bit of an odd noise. I found out what it is. It's just this spring here rubbing against the drum. So I'm just going to check with the old diagram and see if maybe that spring should be mounted the other way around so it doesn't hit the drum. Other than that, handbrake was the same thing as the other side. Sticky quadrant. So that one should be easy enough to fix, hopefully. Yeah, if you look at the picture in the book, you can see the spring with the tail at the bottom there, and I've got the tail at the top. So I just flip that around. I just spray it with some cleaner to wet it down because they're probably asbestos. So before I touch it, I'll just make sure I don't get any dust off that. I'll turn it around, put it back. Okay, next onto washers. I've got this ancient Halfords washer bottle, which can go somewhere here-ish. I pinch this pump off the MGB, which plugs into this connector here, hoping that that one's earth and that one's live, and it goes to a switch under the dash, which hopefully I can get some live supply to. That's for the old pushy squirty one, don't need that. Let's see what we can do. Just stuck the multimeter on this random dangling around wire. It's an ignition fed live. I think that is what they probably use for the washer pump, and I think that goes to the one under the bonnet. So I think if I can get that back on there, we should be cooking. Well, while the MGB pump makes noise, it doesn't actually appear to pump. I rummaged around and found this, so see if we can get that going. Well, that one doesn't even make noise, so more shells, more rummaging has led me to this. Let's see if we can do something with this. Well, it's there. Let's tick it off. Okay, maybe a headlamp bowl as well as a headlight. Yeah, I think that could perhaps be a good idea. Alright, that beautiful bowl is replaced. The MGB has kindly donated a headlamp bowl. So that's that one sorted. So, took the car to work today. Thought I'd see what it was like. Got a little bit warm, not worryingly warm, but a little warm. Got home and, well, we can see what's been going on. There's some mayonnaise in there. There's some mayonnaise in there, and when I filled the coolant back up, there's oil floating on the top. So I think we need to do a head gasket before Sunday, and it's now Wednesday. Yeah. Well, guess I'll get to it. I got bad news. The bores in general, look in this one, is good. There's no step in the top of the bore. You'd think, yeah, that's a pretty low mileage engine. We're good here, until you get to this end fella. You can see down here, something's taken a chunk off the edge of that piston. If I bring it up to the top, see if I can, one-handed. Here he comes. As you can see, that is not a happy piston. So I imagine whatever's gone down there has probably taken the ring with it, which should be why it's so smoky. So I've got to decide what I do now. Okay, it's now Thursday evening. I've had a bit of time to think, and I've got what we're vaguely going to call a plan. So my plan is this. Now, yes, it does look like it's been at the bottom of the sea, but hopefully it'll work. Now, there's also a few more problems. It's from a Mini, which means the gearbox is different, and the engine mount is different, which sits behind the timing chain. So basically got to strip the engine down to a block, short engine, to swap it over, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to try and get this engine out tonight and get it stripped down as much as I can, and then the new engine is coming Friday evening, and we'll try and get it all back together in time for Sunday. Yeah. We're about ready to pull the engine out now. So I've undone the mount at the back here, mount at the front. I haven't undone the mount on that side because it turns out it's broken. And I've been underneath, disconnected the drive shafts. I left the rubber coupling attached to the drive shaft, but removed it from the gearbox flange, both sides. That one clears, but that one, as you know, is a pain. But I'm hoping if I can pull the engine up that way and across, I don't have to worry about that. Taken the clamp off to get the carburetor out of the way, giving a bit more space, took off the wiring loom. I think that's everything. I've had to improvise a bit on the lifting eyes because there's no head on. I could put the head back on, but that should be fine. So I'll get the crane in. Well, that's out. All empty in there. So, I now need to get the gearbox off that, the dynamo, probably that water pump, probably the starter motor, because it's a good one, coil, maybe distributor. So I'm going to start stripping that down. Right, I've begun stripping bits off this. We've got the clutch off, flywheel off, and cover off there. So getting down to the gearbox that side. Then I've got to strip all this side off to get that cover off and get the gearbox off. We're getting there. And then over here, my assistants have arrived. 2 men. And we're doing a bit of a spruce up in here while it's out. Make it a little bit nicer. Well, it's quite terrible, isn't it? So, yeah, it's going to be like new. Right, new engine is here. It's in the wheelbarrow. Cleaned it up. I'm just going to give it a little coat of paint. Okay, this isn't going so well. You may notice there's no head nuts on. I'll put some oil down the bores and I've got to turn it over. It's turning, but it's stiff, and that valve there is sticking down. Head's got to come off. Got to see what's going on in there. Great. Oh, that's good. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Let's flip up and have a look at the valve situation.
Ooh. Well, things have escalated. This is engine number 2. It's obviously in bits on the bench. We cleaned up the bores and freed off the pistons, but they're still tight. So I think the pistons are going to have to come out to check the rings, make sure it's all nice and clean, see what's going on there. There's also potentially a bit of bore wear, so we've got to decide whether we might swap blocks. Basically, we're now into a complete engine build. So that's great. Good morning. It's now Saturday. The tour is tomorrow. And, well, let's recap. So this is where we got to last night. We've got the original 1100 engine with the pistons from engine number 2. So it took hours because all the rings were seized in the pistons. We tried our best to free them off, and then we had to use some of the rings from the damaged pistons. It was just but it's all cleaned up, it's all together. So now I've got to get that back on a gearbox and get it all built and back in the car. Car's looking a bit better. Tom painted in here. That's looking much nicer. I need to replace some engine mounts and things before we drop the engine back in. So I think I'd better get on, really. Obviously I haven't had time to clean the gearbox and I'm working on a right mess, but here we go. Engine is going on the box. Got the gaskets on, bit of RTV, and don't forget the O-ring, or the rubber at the end. Right, stick it on. Just refitted the end housing here. I've got this nice special tool that sits over there, just so you don't damage the oil seal. Put a bit of grease on that, but if you haven't got that, you can just put some masking tape around there. I've cleaned the essential surfaces. Everything else I just haven't got time, but it's getting there. It's going back together. It's on the gearbox. End housing's going on. Got the timing side all buttoned up now. Got a nice duplex chain on here. Just marked up, got the cam and crank time marks lined up. Got the 1100 spec, Wolseley spec timing cover on there. And then on the other side here, got the clutch all back together. Just adjusted that to 1/2 mil clearance on the clutch. Making progress. Okay, it's looking like an engine. I've just given it a little spit of paint. And one good thing I did find, 1100 engine, got a 12G295 head, big valve head, so that's nice. Yeah, nearly ready to put it back in. Right, the engine is more or less ready. A few bits to go back on, thermostat housing, starter motor, oil filter, etc. But it's easier to get it in the car with a bit more space around it. Car's back up on stands, ready to go. Let's get it back in. What the timing is, but it's moving. Now, this might sound crazy, but I think it might have a cam in it. Because I don't think that's mixture, I think it's lumpy. Clean as a whistle. Good morning. Well, apologies I didn't do any more videos last night. It got very late, but I'm here. I'm at the start of the tour. Let's have a look around the car. So engine is in. So far so good. A little bit of intermittent misfire. I think it might be points, but didn't get a chance to look at that. I was setting the timing at 1 AM last night. So yes, we're here. We made it. Engine is running okay, considering it's just built of lots of bits that were lying around. Let's see how the day goes. Well, here I am at Northampton Halfords. That misfire's been getting worse and worse. I've been playing with the points, but they're really badly pitted. Should have checked. So we've got some wet and dry. I'll try taking the points off and cleaning them up. Hopefully that gets us back on the road. They were so pitted I had to go back in for the big guns and get a file. Back together now, gapped. Well, that worked for a bit, and then we had to do the same thing again and again and again. We would get about 5 miles and then the points burnt up. So I think the condenser's gone. So we've limped it to the coffee halt here halfway. I'm just waiting for my wife to come rescue me with the condenser and some points. So we've made it to the finish. We're at the end of the tour. Did still have more problems after my wife bought me parts. Somebody else very kindly lent us a coil. That turned out to be a problem. Particularly when you bring a spare coil, but if we're doing a balance resistance. But it has run absolutely perfectly apart from that. And here we are at the end. So now we've got to go and have food to relax. But thanks for watching.